Hey guys, today I'm here with Noah. We're going to be talking about building an SEO team. So he's someone that has an SEO agency, been doing SEO for quite some time. I'm going to let him do his own intro in 1 second, but he's going to be talking all about SEO teams and building that. Noah, welcome, and how are you?
Hey Chase, thanks for having me. Appreciate being on, been enjoying this video series you've been doing. So happy to join you today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I want you to kind of do a quick background on, who you are and what you're building, and then dive into kind of building the SEO team.
Yeah, totally. So I was at an agency as the director of marketing and strategy for about 7 years. Started actually as a web developer there, and then transitioned into launching the marketing team and doing SEO and a bunch of other stuff too. I was wearing too many hats probably, which is actually, it's obviously I wouldn't recommend people to wear too many hats, which is kind of what we're going to dive into here with building on an SEO team. But having that experience has been helpful because I understand kind of all the components that goes into every bit of doing digital marketing and having success for a brand. And then this past spring, made the leap to leave that agency and start my own thing. So that's been going well. I think we're on, I guess I started in May. So this is month, 4 or 5 now. And yeah, it's going well. Too busy already, which is a good problem to have early on. And yeah, it's going great. And so where I'm at right now is finding the best way to build out my SEO team to offload stuff off of my plate so I can focus on sales, focus on creating content for myself to get out there more and get more recognition and just kind of do all that heavy work on working on the businesses as opposed to in it.
Awesome. So with the team right now, like what's the team size and like what are the roles on your team that you currently have? And then where are you going? Like what are the next roles that you're thinking about hiring?
Sure. So right now I'm the primary SEO specialist on the team. And then I have a virtual assistant and a data entry specialist helping me out. A couple months ago, I actually did try to bring on an SEO specialist to kind of replace what I do a lot of the time. And I was not ready for that role. And there's actually 2 people I tried out for it. And it was not really on them that it didn't work out. It was just kind of I was hoping to offload a lot of that work right away. I did not have my SOPs in order enough. And that's one thing I definitely would stress to people is early on, especially if you're a solo, entrepreneur and you want to offload some of your tasks, I would really encourage starting smaller and getting some small stuff like the busy work off your plate first instead of the big stuff, because the bigger roles are probably going to require more time and training. And I still need to get deliverables out. So it was a really interesting experience to see at first, it wasn't helping me free up any time, because I was having to train and stuff like that. So I had to take a step back and be all right, let's switch up how we're doing this.
Yeah, it makes sense. 2 things I wanted to kind of dive into there. One is in terms of when you actually were interviewing those folks that were SEO specialists, what were some of the things that you asked them? How did you know whether they had the experience that you were looking for or not?
Yeah, so when it comes to SEO, I mean, there's so much you can talk about, right? So I definitely look for someone who can talk about their process, talk about sites they've worked on, what experience they've had, how they handle link building. As we all know with SEO, link building is a huge thing. How they feel about what type of links to get, what anchor text to use. There's certain technical things you can dive into that show, can show you that someone really knows what they're talking about. And also, on top of that, if their process aligns with yours, because a big thing with SEO is everyone does it a little bit differently, right? So for me, what's really important is finding someone that thinks about SEO the same way I do, right? So, I don't want someone who's doing all sorts of crazy black hat stuff, though, in my opinion, everything is really kind of gray hat anyways. There's no white hat doesn't really exist if you ask me. But you just want people to align with how you do things. I really like to pick their brain about keyword research too, how they think about keywords, their understanding of keywords, things like that. And you can always give them a quick test too, right? Say, hey, give me an audit of this page. Tell me some things you'd improve, or stuff like that.
Nice, appreciate that. And then on the other side, the part that you mentioned, the SOP side, what have you found kind of to be the best way to actually build your SOP? Is it just recording Loom videos? Is it just writing a Google document? Like what's been the best, process and kind of for you to start documenting that, so that way when you go to hire an SEO specialist again, it works out?
Yeah, Loom videos have been huge. Like I've been doing a ton of that lately, using a mix of Process Street, Loom, and Trello to document everything. And then I have like a Google Drive folder. It's like a database of stuff with all our process templates and things like that. But yeah, Loom is crucial. I found that even with writing things out in detail, like having a video walkthrough of me doing the task with a client, for some of the stuff I've already offloaded to my VA and data entry specialists, like that is essential. It goes a long way because, even if you write it out perfectly, it can be open for interpretation. And if you have a video for it, it really helps.
Sweet. Yeah, I want to switch gears for 1 second before coming back to the team side. In terms of like vetting clients, like how do you know whether someone's a good candidate for SEO? Do they have a certain amount of traffic? Do they have a certain amount of revenue? Are they in a certain number of industry? For you in particular?
Yeah, so for me, it's really comes down to, are they actually comfortable and excited about making the investment in SEO? Ideally, I do like to work with clients that already have a bit of an established business and brand, because then you kind of have some things to work with. But I don't shy away from new businesses or new websites either. Those can actually be kind of nice because you don't have anything to clean up. You're kind of starting with a blank slate. But in those cases, the only problem you can run into with a brand new site is that if it's someone who's like starting their first business, or let's say if it's like a lawyer or something like that, it's their first time kind of doing their own law practice or law firm, like they might not be mentally ready to make that investment, right? Whereas if it's like a startup or something like that, or like a SaaS, someone with maybe more money or more cash flow right away, they might be in a position to like, hey, we've actually set budget aside for investing in this. And it really comes down to mindset and being in it for the long haul, because it's not always a flip of the switch thing with SEO, as a lot of people know. And you got to put in your work and oftentimes keep it going, right? So
yeah, on that point, like what's a proper expectation? So say you start working with someone in September, right?
Mm-hmm.
When's like the right time for them to start saying, hey, Noah, we're seeing results now, we're not seeing results? Like, should they start seeing results in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, longer? What does that look like?
It does depend on the competition of the niche, right? But I usually tell clients, the first like 3 months, we're going to start seeing some metrics that show us the needle is moving, whether that's just like improving some keyword rankings, like maybe we're not all the way to page 1 yet, but we're getting there, or it's even expanding the number of keywords we're ranking for, right? Things like that. Obviously, ideally, you want to see some traffic start to head up. But more realistically, I say like, you do need to give it a good 6 months, right? And then if it's a more competitive space, like give it a year, right? But 3 to 6 months to start seeing some movement for sure, is what I tell everyone.
Cool, that makes sense. And then one more question I have before we talk about the team side again is like, what is kind of some of the tools in your arsenal on the SEO side? Like, what tools are you looking to kind of check, search rankings or traffic, right? Is it Google Analytics? Is it Ahrefs or SEMrush? Like what's kind of like your toolkit of things that you're looking at and doing, whether it's free or paid?
Yeah, so on the paid side, I use Ahrefs primarily, and I also use Surfer SEO for content stuff and auditing some pages. But Ahrefs definitely is my go-to for keyword research and just tracking all those metrics, and figuring out, what competitors are doing too. Like that's a huge part of SEO as well, doing that competitive research. So both those tools help out a lot with that. And then you can always, Google Analytics is great for just keeping track of site traffic. And then Google Search Console, I feel like is an under talked about tool. I mean, I see other SEOs share the screenshots of that sometimes, but that can be a great spot to see metrics before they show up in your tools sometimes. Like I'm working with an app development company right now that they're like brand new. They're in a pretty niche space, and like the keywords they're starting to rank for are showing up on Search Console first, right? They're not quite showing up in Ahrefs yet, right? So we can see, like, we're only like a month and a half into working with them, so we can see like the needles starting to move. Like, hey, you were only showing up for your brand name before, and now these other keywords that are relevant are starting to show up here, right? So that's another tool you can use to get some idea of what's going on. And then outside of that, I mean, that's pretty much the core part of what I use. I use Google Data Studio for reporting. And yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of it.
Nice. So going back to the team side, we'll round out kind of here is when you think about like a team, I kind of call it just like a pod, basically a group of team members that work with a select number of clients. Like what is like the ideal kind of pod structure in terms of employees? So you might have someone like you that's an SEO specialist that's kind of the lead. You might have some kind of account manager or VA. Who are the team members needed to really make sure that you crush it for your clients?
Yeah, so ideally, the structure that I'm aiming to go for, right, is there's going to be an SEO manager who doesn't actually do any of the SEO, but knows it very well and is just keeping tabs on everything, right? So they can catch red flags or make sure projects and things are moving along appropriately, and they can touch base with the team members, and that kind of functions as a bit of as an account manager, right? For the whole team kind of. And then SEO specialist, obviously they're the person that understands, how to do keyword research, how to fix on-page items on the websites, understanding the intent of searches and being able to make those decisions about what keywords to go after, what backlinks we should go after, those things. And then a data entry specialist, there's, when you're doing audits and stuff like that, there can be a lot of, pretty tedious like data entry work. So it's good to have someone dedicated to that. And they can also help with researching things too, right? If I'm saying, hey, I want to, get all the root domains that a competitor is ranking for, right? That they're not ranking for, sorry, that they have backlinks from. Can you go grab those for me real quick and put them into a spreadsheet and see which ones are good or not, right? That type of thing. A copywriter is always great to have. So if you're, updating your meta titles and descriptions, doing guest posts, updating existing site content, right? That's a crucial person to have on your team for creating fresh content and updating existing stuff too. And then beyond that, you definitely want a link builder there as well, because they're going to be doing outreach to people to other websites, finding guest posting opportunities, negotiating, right? If there's any money that needs to be involved, and yes, money is involved for people who are like, is money involved with getting links? Yeah, it is a lot of the time. So, they're doing a lot of that research and outreach on what links we can get. They need to understand anchor text that goes along with the links you want to get and what those should be and what our strategy is there. So that's a crucial role too. So those are like the core like SEO parts of it, but then it also can be helpful to have a designer and a developer on hand too. And because sometimes there are things, for like a web developer, there can be things related to site speed or just in the code, or like whether it's building out a new page or whatever, removing some code that doesn't need to be there, slowing the site down, right? Having someone like that on hand can be really helpful if it's beyond like basic HTML structure of a blog post, right? If it's beyond that, that person can be crucial. And then a designer can help a lot with assets, right? Things like infographics or blog post headers, other image assets and things like that.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. And then I guess the last question I have is like, how have you gone about, I think this is everyone's question, how have you gone about acquiring clients?
Yeah. So for the most part, it has been word of mouth and referrals so far. I've done, had some LinkedIn outreach campaigns going, cold email, things like that, which have generated calls, and I had people in my pipeline from those efforts. But for the most part, everyone has been referral. I've had people come via Twitter. I've had people on Twitter refer me to people. I've had new existing clients already refer me to new people, right? Which is cool. That's always like the biggest pat on the back when an existing client refers you to somebody. And my first client I had, one of my first ones I had in the bag was actually someone I had brought to the previous agency I was at. Some guys I went to college with, and they were cool with me taking them with me when I left, since I brought them in. So yeah, it's a lot of it can be about your network and building relationships. And then, my next sort of move with getting the next level of clients is, when I free up time, is putting together good case studies and doing more posting on social and stuff like that, so I can attract more people that way. Because obviously when you have results to show and stuff like that, that's crucial. I'm kind of right now at a phase where like I'm more focused on like pleasing my current clients and keeping them around and building out the team. So I'm not like scaling too fast and then in over my head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's super smart. Well, dude, appreciate you. This was incredible content on building an SEO team and even more. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. What's the website link for your agency? And then what's the best place for people to find you on social?
Sure. So website is workwithnoah.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Noah's 4 cents. It's probably the best place to find me if you want to hit me up.
Sweet. So, we'll drop your handles below. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.